can you stop the music, please? Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Hi, my name is Sally Nasenhoya. I am with Office of Tribal Relations, and you are in breakout session number 2 of the Indigenous Children, Youth, and Families Conference. This breakout session features Nathan Lachine. I hope I said that correctly. And he will be talking to us about warning signs of online grooming. Before I introduce him, I would like to introduce our support staff who are available to help with this session from the Office of Tribal Relations and also from the University of Washington Alliance, as they're helping us with some things with this Zoom. So if you want to introduce yourself, OTR support staff and Alliance, and then I'll go ahead and start my introduction of Nathan.
Hi all, I'm Kelly Pelland and I'm the executive assistant for Talina Ives. I'm running the Zoom, and if you have problems getting in or out or need anything, just send me a message in the chat.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Sorry, along with Kelly, my name is Robin. I'm with the Alliance at UW, and along with Kelly, I'll be helping manage the chat and technical support. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Just to let everyone know, this session is being recorded, and I will now introduce Nathan. He is on our Zoom right now. He's a professional speaker, trainer, published author, community advocate, longtime specialized foster parent, and enthusiastic collector of modern and historic queer art. He has served as a key volunteer and eventually board member for the nonprofit group Male Survivor for more than 20 years, and is the founder of Evergreen Caregiver Support, a Washington-based foster parent and kinship resource and discussion platform. Nathan comes to us from here in Washington, and let me have the pleasure of introducing to you Mr. Nathan Lachine. And I hope I said your last name correctly.
Oh, very close. It's Lachine. So fantastic to be here, folks. As I said, my name's Nathan Lachine. Use he, him, his pronouns. Very excited to share with you kind of the internet safety and warning signs of online grooming. Just kind of the background on this is that I'm a therapeutic foster parent, work with a lot of BRS teens, and unfortunately, we know that system-involved youth are at higher risks. So this training kind of helps identify some of those warning signs and talks about education and empowering. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Please, if you have any questions, you can throw them in chat. You can also just unmute yourself and ask any of the questions.
Hi, Nathan. It's Cassie. Sorry to interrupt you before you get started. We're having a difficult time hearing you. Is there any way you can turn?
Switch mics, see if that's all right. Is this better? It's a different mic.
It's still pretty quiet.
Of course, always have technical. Is that any better? Third mic option.
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe just speak a little louder.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. I apologize that. So let's go ahead and jump into the presentation, everybody. All right. So as I said, we're here to kind of talk about internet safety and online grooming. So let's have some context to our conversation. So some of the context is the FBI estimates roughly 500,000 to 600,000 perpetrators are online every single day. They're opportunistic, right? We know that most perpetrators are looking just for those opportunities to engage with kids. Some of those engagement options have increased just substantially since COVID, right? Every kid now has cell phones. Some reports show as high as 95% of teens in America have phones. Think about all of the tablets that were issued to kids and laptops for kids so they can continue their education, right? So that opportunity for perpetrators to engage with our kids has grown exponentially. So from 2019 to 2020, the online enticement reports went up 97%. So this is from NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a 97% increase before COVID. What is it like after COVID? We're still waiting to see some of those numbers. Over 50% of the victims that were exploited online are between the ages of 12 and 15. Big demographics of the kids that I work with, right there, between 12 and 15 years of age. So in 2020, this is the breakdown from NCMEC. 78% of the victims self-identified as female, 13% identified as male, 9% the genders are unknown to the victims. So the unfortunate thing is that we do not have good statistical data on LGBTQI plus youth. We know they are at higher risks, but we don't have those reports specifically around youth that are transgender, that are gender diverse.
Nathan, you just went mute.
Okay, I didn't even mute myself that time. Technology. All right, so some of those myths that we know, especially when it comes around male identifying, is that we don't believe that men can be victims or boys can be victims of trafficking or sexual abuse. We also have, our negative stereotypes around male victimization. What we have found is that some of the studies coming out of Canada, Norway, and Sweden are actually finding similar rates of exploitation against male and female identifying. And we also know is that in this study, young men were 3 times as likely to do what's called survival sex for a place to stay compared to female survivors. So we know we're not identifying male victims, and we know that they are engaging up to 3 times as often in survival sex. So we have some huge disproportionalities just right there. So let's go ahead and watch this video. If the audio doesn't come through, somebody just yell at me and say the audio is not working.
Ways social media affects teen mental health. Social media is an absolute global phenomenon. Since emerging in the early 2000s, social media has exploded in popularity. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Twitter, as well as messaging services like WhatsApp, Viber, Skype, and Snapchat. They've given friends, family, and even complete strangers the ability to easily connect, create online profiles, upload photos, share videos, and communicate instantaneously. But with researchers reporting our youth spending up to 9 hours a day using some form of digital technology, are their minds equipped for navigating social media interactions? Does social media affect the mental health of our kids? We're social creatures, and our kids are no different. They crave connection, and unfortunately, sometimes we're not enough. Don't take it personally. It has to be said that social media is an absolutely vital tool when it comes to communication and networking. Learning how to use it effectively should be absolutely encouraged, but it pays to be aware of the way social media can affect your child's mental health. Depression. There is a definite correlation between social media use and depression. In several recent studies, teenage and young adult users who spent the most time on social media platforms were shown to have between 13 and 66% higher rate of reported depression than those who spent less time. Anxiety. Social media addictions have been demonstrated in research to cause anxiety disorders. Platforms such as Instagram have fueled an increase in diagnosed social anxiety disorders, and it's being noticed from teenagers all the way through adolescence into adulthood. Sleep deprivation. Social media apps are designed to keep us engaged, keep us scrolling, keep us swiping. That's why Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook feeds are an infinite timeline of content. Our kids check their phones before they go to bed, and they've opened their phones before they've even opened their eyes in the morning. A recent study reported 20% of teens regularly wake up in the middle of the night, log into social media, and then go back to sleep. These disrupted sleep patterns and late nights staring at a tiny phone in the dark wreak havoc on your child's mood, concentration, and eating habits. Jealousy and envy. We all feel a little jealous when we see someone with something we want or living a life we always dreamed of. Our teenagers feel these things too, but as their minds are still developing, they feel it on overcharge. They see their friend's picture-perfect profile and immediately start comparing their own life, coming up short. It's sometimes hard for our teens to understand that people only post their highs when they look and feel their best. Most people hide their dark and ugly moments away from the internet. Unfair comparisons can lead to depression, loneliness, anger, and a variety of other issues. Body surveillance. Photoshopped and filtered photos can lead to a negative self-body image known as body surveillance. Teens who experience this become chronically overly judgmental of themselves and their appearance, which can lead to serious long-term self-esteem issues. Cyberbullying. In a survey, 72% of teens reported that they had been cyberbullied at some point. It can be way more vicious than face-to-face bullying, as the bullies, or groups of bullies, never really get to see the consequence of their hurtful comments. Cyberbullying is incessant. It happens out of sight from teachers and parents, and the victim literally can't escape. How can we help to protect our children on social media? As a parent, you're probably familiar with a handful of current social media platforms. Be aware of which ones your children use, and make sure they meet the minimum age requirements of the platform. When setting up an account, remind them of the importance of strict personal privacy settings. Not all platforms have this enabled as default, so take the time to make sure their account is set up correctly. This is the perfect time to discuss what information is appropriate to share online. Personal and private information should remain exactly that. Stranger danger still applies.
All right. So all of those are great about talking points and empowering when you're having those conversations with youth. What I want now to define is kind of what the internet. So what we see as the internet is roughly about 4%, 5% of the internet. That's where you can search it. You just know the name of a website you're looking for. You type it in, right? Can use search engines to find information. 90% of the web is that password protected part, or the deep web. And then you have what's known as the dark web. That's that last little 6%. So using this iceberg analysis, that's that last little part at the bottom. So that's where you start seeing inappropriate CSAM materials being exchanged. That's where you also, Silk Road was the largest dark web website where you could buy everything from weapons to CSAM to drugs to anything and everything on the dark web. So this is roughly a layout of what the internet looks like. So our kids naturally assume a fair amount of times that they're talking to other kids. But how do they really know they're talking to another kid? Oh, they told me they were a kid. Oh, they said they were 14, 10, 12, whatever. But how do the kids really know? They don't. They make assumptions that they're talking to another kid. Happens all the time. So, unfortunately, the internet has allowed us to network and collaborate on many different projects. And unfortunately, people that are looking to victimize our kids also collaborate. So, this is unfortunately an open website that discusses how to perpetrate against children, how to bypass technology, how to hide your identities. This is all free information that perpetrators are accessing to level themselves up and to collaborate against victims. All right. So if you're not aware of emojis, every single one of these emojis has a sexual connotation to it. So because I want to get invited back to speak, I'm not going to tell you about all of these, but I can assure you our kids are not saying they want to eat more eggplant and they want to have more peaches in their diet, and they're not asking for a taco night. So you can actually go to this website. It's called welcome2reality.us. Click on Parent Corner, and you can hover over each one of these. Every single one of these is a sexual connotation. So as in the video, they're talking about software solutions. They're great. But if it's set up to look for keywords like sex, SEX, if your kids are using these emojis, that software is not going to detect it. So this is just one of the many ways that our kids and perpetrators are able to get around software solutions. So the first kind of process that we go through is a perpetrator is going to start gathering information about our kids. So that includes not only their real names, that can include their gamer tags, their handles, email addresses. They're going to want all the information that they can about our kids. Think about just on your Facebook profiles, on your Instagram profiles. Have you set the privacy settings on your page right now? Right? I didn't do it till years later. So if we as adults aren't even checking our privacy settings, or our kids checking their privacy settings, right? Then a perpetrator is going to start asking the very specific questions. Does somebody check your cell phone? Does somebody check your tablet? Does somebody check your laptop? Right? Red flag right out the gate is that second question. Do you have your own bedroom? Are we talking to our kids that if somebody ever asks you that specific question, that's a huge red flag. They need to come and get you, right? We want to educate and empower our kids. And if we don't tell them these are questions that you shouldn't be answering, how do they know they shouldn't be answering those questions? Right? So they're also going to be deep diving into the pictures to see what music videos did your kids share? What movies? What cartoons? What fill in the blank, right? What are the kids sharing? What are they liking? What are they following, right? So much information we give away without even realizing it. And it's not just kids that make this mistake. Us adults do it all the time too. So next part of it would be building that friendship, that dependency around it. Think about when we were all in school, right? That social credit, like who's the cool kid, who's the jock, right? Who's the funniest person, who's the whatever, fill in the blank, right? That social credit was so important to our kids because they wanted to be seen as a cool person. Same thing online, especially for kids that are system involved. Think about how many placements some kids have, right? Most of my teens, by the time they come to my house, have had over 25 placements before they come to my house. What has been the most consistent place these kids have been able to access? That's the internet. That's the online friends they've made, right? So that digital reality can be as important and in a lot of cases more important to our kids than their physical reality because they don't have any control over it. So those online friendships take on a different level to them because that might be the only consistent thing in all these moves and placements, right? So you'll see that they'll be sending the friend requests, they'll be liking, following, sharing those posts. In the video, it said 20% of teens will admit they check their social media in the middle of the night. What do you think they're checking? They're checking to see how many likes and follows did I get? How many of these people reshared my post, right? Because that social credit is so important to our kids. All right. So this is our one fun kind of little engagement activity. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you just one picture. Let's see how many of these items you can all find. So this is just one picture that I have. There's roughly 15-ish items on there. Let's see, can we find 10 of them at least? So this will be a free-for-all. You can all unmute yourself. As you see items, just shout it out what you see or what you're able to learn about this kid from this one picture. All right, here we go. All right, what do we know about this kid from this one picture?
He likes soccer.
In the bedroom alone.
Lucas.
Name.
Yep,
Video games.
yep,
Sports.
Athletic.
Yep.
He's 14.
Computer on
What
his
would be
desk.
his jersey number? His name is Lucas.
Look at that. Look at that. Y'all were right out the gate. You nailed most of them. That's fantastic. So,
He's won awards.
yep. Yep. The trophies and everything. So let's just kind of run through this. So this one picture, we're able to develop our information gathering and a profile of this kid. So we know soccer, right? We know trophies. If this was a high res picture, which I purposely have it as blurred, you might be able to zoom in on those trophies and see, is it personalized? Does it have the kid's first and last name, the team? If it's not personalized, is it saying like, oh, Mason County Little League? Oh, Clark County Invitational? Oh, right? You might be able to figure out what county this kid plays in. So those video games, those can be really critical information because one, perpetrator gets to know your kid's interests and likes, but more importantly, a perpetrator can now follow that kid and approach, well, my first approach failed. Oh, let me try again. Let me try again. Let me try again, right? They're able to follow our kids across different games. So that's why it's so critical not to give out pictures and videos. Kids do not realize how much info we're giving away. Books, again, giving out their interests, their likes, right? Also gives a perpetrator an in. Well, I'm waiting for the second Harry Potter Deathly Hallows to come out too. I can't wait, right? Gives the kids and the perpetrators something to start talking about. So glasses, could also be a perpetrator goes, man, I'm so tired. My parents tell me to wear my glasses all the time. And then this kid jumps on that. Yeah, my parents are stupid. They ask me to wear glasses all the time too, right? Just again, gives a perpetrator more information about this kiddo. The number 14, I grew up in Mason County, and I and my siblings would not play on certain teams if we could not get our jersey numbers. So a jersey number can be just as identifiable as a kid's name. So from this, we know soccer, baseball, jersey number. What else do we know? Oh, look, they also have unlimited access, right? Nobody's looking at them. Who's supervising, right? They have a tablet and a desktop in their bedroom. Not a good setup. We now know this kid's name is Lucas. Those name boards, what if it says Lucas is a great bigger brother? Lucas is a great younger brother. Lucas loves to cook. Lucas loves fill in the blank, right? More information that we have given out of this one picture. Color scheme. Seems like this is a kid's favorite colors. Could they be school colors? Could they be team colors? Could they be whatever, right? There's something here that this kid really likes these colors. Right? So again, small bed probably doesn't share, has unrestricted, unsupervised access to the internet in the bedroom, right? A lot of concerns. So out of this one thing, we've been able to learn at least 15. Now, some of the other calls that people have made over the years are the medals there you could zoom in on. Look at the shirt. It's a purposely blurred image. That's a YMCA shirt. Think about how many schools, clubs, Boys and Girls Clubs, Ys, do fundraisers by selling the shirts. What if that says YMCA Seattle branch? Right? You might be able to know even more information about Lucas. So from this one picture, we could gain at least 15, if not 20 items of information, right? So now from this one picture that Lucas sent, let's look at the geotagging data. So this first column is the picture that Lucas sent. Second column, look at the information we're able to gain here. We know the date it was taken. We know the device it was taken on. By the way, that's a cell phone. And then we know the most scary part, date, time, and GPS coordinate. So most software does not auto remove this information. You actually have to physically opt out for it to do that. So this picture, when Lucas sent it, he did not opt out because they weren't aware to opt out of sending that GPS data. With this GPS data, I go to Google Maps. I'm able to find Lucas's house. So from a kid sending what they think is an innocent picture to another kid, we have now learned 15 plus items about Lucas. We've learned where Lucas lives now because we know the GPS. Take a look. There's also a soccer field. Could that potentially be the field that Lucas hangs out at? Right? We've now also given away where this kid might be hanging out if a perpetrator wants to approach them. Say Lucas sends his picture. He's like, "Oh, I'm getting ready. I look real fly. I'm ready for this homecoming dance or whatever it is." And they say, "Hey, send me a picture of that." Now the perpetrator could know what school Lucas goes to, could know the route maybe Lucas takes walking to school. So from one innocent picture, we have now learned 15 plus items, Lucas's address. Oh, and by the way, you can just give me directions to Lucas's house, right? You can also use Google Street View to zoom in on that house. This is all free software and totally accessible. So you can zoom in and you could even be able to then be really specific about what house, what vehicle they drive, right? So from one seemingly innocent picture, we've learned all this information. Now, what if in that driveway, your minivan is there and you have some bumper stickers? Think about how much information we have given away on these bumper stickers. Right? How many of us are guilty for having one of these? For having an honor roll, or my kid plays here, or my kid's part of this team, right? Think of that extra additional information. So from this, if this van was parked out there, you might learn that they play baseball, other hobbies. Oh, look, they have a fur baby. They have a Max, right? All that information is just more and more for a perpetrator to utilize. So going down this one picture, 15 to 20 items, we know GPS now, we know the house, we know the soccer field, this car's parked out there, we've learned these other things, that there's a girl in the house, that we know they play baseball, we know they have a fur baby. Oh, and by the way, you're the proud parent and you have my kids on the honor roll. Now I can identify what school, right? Just from one picture, folks. So next step of this is going to be that kind of buying of the friendship, the relationship. So we have to always remember that it's anything of value. So games use what are called microtransactions. So instead of buying the game for $50, you buy a game for 20. The manufacturer puts in there, oh, $2 to get this skin, $1.99 for this, $3.99 for this new vehicle, for this weapon, whatever it is. As a parent or caregiver, if you're not playing these games with the kids, how do you know that they're getting these extra additional in-game purchases? Right? How would you ever track that? Right? The internet has made it so easy to conduct financial transactions that we as caregivers don't even realize it when our kids are getting this money. I've worked with families that the perpetrator was nice enough to send a pizza to a kid's house using Uber Eats. Kid thinks they're just, oh, that's so cool that I got a free pizza. They just confirmed their address. Right? We have had perpetrators give kids Amazon wish list items and the kids have it sent to their house and they get there before the parent gets there, or they go to an Amazon locker. Right? We need to be playing these games with our kids and we need to be very vigilant of when it seems out of place that they have this much in-game content or they have all these physical things. Right? Prepaid debit and Visa cards. Where are your kids getting those from, right? All of those things we need to be suspicious about. So unfortunately, we know that 3 out of 4 victims are trafficked online. We also know that in one study, roughly trafficked victims were trafficked across 2.7 states. Here in Washington, I can get from Canada to Mexico on one road. Right? Just one road. That's all I have to know, how to drive up and down I-5. Right? So next we start seeing the building of the dependency. So this isn't unique to just online trafficking and grooming techniques. We see this also in domestic violence relationships, where it's about building that I'm the only one who gets you. Nobody else would understand what you're going through. I'm your best friend. This is also the time you might see kids start referring to the person as their online partner, online girlfriend, online boyfriend, whatever. So we want to be really conscientious when our kids are saying they have an online partner. What do you mean by that? Oh, they're just some kid in another state. How do you know they're in another state? How do you know they're a kid? Well, they sent me a picture or video. Well, in this day and age, you can go find pictures and videos of kids. There are editing software where you can make the pictures and videos start and stop where you want them to show, oh, yes, I'm just another kid. Here's a webcam of me waving at you. Trust me, you can go onto a search engine right now and type in 12-year-old female waving, and you can find a video that you could splice and send to a kid. Right? Our kids are very trusting because a lot of these perpetrators will be playing the video games with the kids. They'll be talking to them online for consistent amount of time. And the kids start really, truly believing, because their defenses aren't up, that this is just another kid. So this is where you start seeing that, oh, we're in a relationship. Oh, you're my partner, you're my boyfriend, girlfriend. Those kind of key terms are something you really want to start looking for. They'll also do that. Nobody gets you like me. I've been there. I've done these things, right? It's just those emotional digs and barbs that we see in a lot of other symptoms. All right. Then it starts changing that dynamic. Now that I've been friends with them for a while, now that I've bought them stuff, now that they're really committed to me, they think I'm that knight in shining armor. I've really isolated my victim. Really, those are those steps. And now we start going into that control, the pressure, where now we start asking for things. Right? So this is where you start seeing those emotional blackmails. This is where you'll start seeing that the kids will send pictures. This is where you start seeing the pressures. to meet up potentially, to send more pictures, more videos, more content. So this is where that pressure starts coming. This is where the I'll stop talking to you, or I'll post all this on your school or your soccer team or your baseball team's Facebook page, right? That's where these blackmails start happening. It's also known as sextortion, where they're being extorted for more sexual material. We see this as very common. So we're going to watch this quick little video clip about the challenges of in-game for our kids.
Controls on your child's computer and smartphone are common and something you hear quite a bit about. But what about the Xbox, the Wii, or the PlayStation 2? The FBI estimates there are 750,000 child predators online, and the internet can give them the keys to your house, basically. A gaming device can be a pretty easy way in. Psychiatrists say in the world of gaming, your child might not be so quick to detect danger because of a perception that they're actually interacting with a device and not a person on the other end.
She started saying to me, hey, send me a picture of you. And so I did.
They're asking for naked selfies or inappropriate videos. And in worst case scenarios, they're asking to meet the kids.
Investigators say parents who think a child has been contacted inappropriately should report it rather than confronting the perpetrator. Parents need to have their children's passwords for gaming consoles and keep an eye on their history whenever they can.
All right. So out of all of us here, how many of us have kids? Are we playing the video games that our kids are playing? Probably not. But have you sat down and played them with them? Right? Highly, highly recommend playing the video game so you can see, why does this little kid have 500 friends, 1,000 friends in that game? How are they talking to each other? Right? You can never go wrong by spending time with your kids. Even if you're like me and you're playing Fortnite and everybody keeps killing you and you get laughed at and called a noob, I'm still spending time with my kid, doing what they want to do. I get to hear how their friends talk to them. I get to hear how they talk to other kids, right? It's incredible. Spend time playing a video game or two with your kids. You will learn so much. So where is sextortion happening? So primarily it's going to be social networking apps. It's going to be used on video games. It's going to be used on even Zoom. It's going to be used on any of these places where you can communicate and send files and data back and forth. So dating apps is also where a lot of the sextortion will happen. And it's just an easier platform for sending pictures. So by the numbers, what do we know for sextortion? Please bear in mind that this is for ages 13 to 25 and it's a 2017 study. So one in 4 victims were 13 or younger. Let that sink in. 13 or younger, 1 in 4 victims. 47% of the victims were experiencing the threats daily. 45% of the victims said that their offender didn't stop contacting them even after they were blocked. Because in that picture that Lucas sent, Lucas blocks the perpetrator in one game, perpetrator jumps to the next game. Lucas blocks him there, jumps to the next game, right? We give out so much information. 62% of the victims complied with the offender's demands. 68% of those that complied, it said it only made the threats worse and more frequent. 68% of the respondents said they didn't report because they were afraid of getting in trouble. 68% of the victims aren't even coming forward. A quarter of them are under the age of 13. These are just astounding. Why are we not talking to our kids about online safety? Right? 1 in 3 victims never told anyone that this happened to them. So I found this incredibly astounding. So sextortion offenders usually have between 1 and 250 victims by the time they're caught. Perpetrators that abuse kids in real life have between 1 and 15 victims. Right? So we know that online perpetration of our kids, it is more prolific. These perpetrators are more sophisticated and they go after more victims. Right? So now that I've scared you and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm taking phones away, I'm taking internet away. No, my kid will never be on the internet. Let's talk about how we can empower them give them the information to make smart choices. So what these are online data contracts. You can find them all over the internet. These are just a couple free ones I found. I highly recommend getting one of these. Highly recommend getting it in Word format. That way you all can put in your house rules. I want you to remember is that some of our kids could be attorneys, right? They can argue every single little point, right? So make sure you're very explicit about what they can and can't share online. Once your family rules are in there, your kids and you have all sat down and gone over it, have 3 copies. Everybody initials and signs all the copies. They get a copy of it, you get a copy of it, and 1 copy gets posted. So post that where you keep the printer or where you keep all the chargers. That way there's always that physical reminder of this is the family rules that we've all agreed to for you to have that internet access. Now, I also want you to put in there what happens the first time that they violate this contract. The reason why I want you to put that in there, because our kids are neurodivergent, right? And a lot of times they'll go from 0 to 100 really quick. So if you have a kid that's on their 25th placement and they're afraid they're going to lose their cell phone because they made a mistake, and they're afraid that you're going to take that cell phone away forever, that fear might be enough to keep them silent. Versus if they know the first time that they violate this contract, they lose the internet and their phone for a day or 2 or whatever the agreed upon is, right? Eliminate that fear of the unknown so the kids know exactly what's going to happen. If they have sent pictures or videos or they have broken this contract, we want to make sure that a perpetrator is not able to say, nobody's going to believe you. You're going to be in so much trouble. Wait a minute. I already know what's going to happen on this first time. So I'm not afraid that I'm going to lose my phone forever. So I'm going to come tell my caregiver. So here's another fantastic resource. So this is by missingkids.org. This is their NetSmart series. This is a cartoon series around specific topics. So these are fantastic to watch. They're great primers. So you can have these conversations with your kids around sharing of information, downloading of files, don't meet up with strangers, those kind of things. So these are just a fantastic resource that's available. They have several seasons out now. You can look by episode and what the topic is. And this is just a great primer for you to start having these conversations. So this is actually something new by Google. It's called Interland. This is fantastic. This is actually an interactive game that teaches kids about not looking at inappropriate websites, not sharing information, what are viruses, why you don't give out your personal information online. So this is another free resource that Google's come out with. It's very interactive and engaging where kids literally hop around with their avatar, go to different maps, they learn different things, they do interactive questionnaires, and then they progress and keep moving on. So fantastic, fantastic resource, and it's totally free and available right now to anyone. So I do want to stress that sextortion isn't just happening by adults, it's happening by kids as well. So I just did a quick Google search. I was able to find this is 6 separate articles about teens engaging in revenge porn and sextortion. Teens, kids are doing this as well to each other, right? High schoolers. Look at how many, some of these high schoolers, over 100. And one of them, I mean, it's just, even our kids are making poor choices. We need to educate and empower them, talk about consequences, and make sure they understand that this is not acceptable behavior. Right? So we're not only just seeing these behaviors online, we also see them in domestic violence relationships. We see them in abusive relationships, controlling relationships, where people are losing their voice, right? They're told that they're not as valuable. They're told that this other person fixes everything. This other person resolves everything, right? So we see all of this. What's driving that? Well, validation, right? Our kids want to be validated as who they are. They want to be loved. They want to feel connected, belonging, right? All of those things are missing for our kids, right? In a lot of situations, especially kids that are moving from home to home to home. So I have a lot of people that come up to me and go, Nathan, why doesn't the kids just block these people? Or who cares if this person will never talk to them again? Again, kids are moving so much, who they talk to online might be the most consistent person they have talked to. So it's not just me who's like, man, I could care less. Somebody threatens to stop talking to me online. I've got my real world friends. A lot of our kids don't have that. The only connections they've been able to keep and maintain throughout placements and throughout moves is online. That's why these people hold so much power over our kids. All right. So some of the resources that are available out there. So you have NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They run a 24-hour hotline. They also have a 24-hour reporting forum that I'll show you. I want to make sure that everybody knows you always want to engage with the assigned social worker, caseworker immediately. You want to take screenshots. You do not want to engage with the perpetrator. We are not the police. We are not the FBI. We do not know how to handle these investigations. We might think we're doing the right thing and we're not, right? We want to get our kids safe. We want to engage with services immediately, right? We don't want to try to take this on. We want to engage and have the support. Cyber tip line. NCMEC is a national clearinghouse, so they actually do nationwide. You can make a report there as well, and they'll contact and work with law enforcement. They will partner with you as well. How do you make a report? Well, we're going to show you in a second. This is a fantastic resource, again, by Missing Kids. This is their how to have those conversations. So as you can see, each of these are in English and in Spanish. They're downloadable little kind of probing questions for you to have with your kids, but they also have worksheets within there to help drive the point home and discussion topic points. This is all available for free. missingkids.org/netsmarts, and this is all their tips and tricks. Totally free and available. So if you have caregivers that are really reluctant to have these conversations, don't know how to have these conversations, here is a how-to guide right there for them. So National Center, Cyber Tip Line, this is what it looks like when you go in to fill in a report. So I can only go one screen in before making a report, but this is what it looks like. It's available 24/7. Here's another, this is from their new program called Take It Down.
Losing control of your nude images online is terrifying. And if you're a teen, it may feel impossible to reverse it. While you can't go back in time and unsend, we can help you move forward.
All right, so this is our new campaign, Take It Down. NCMEC's there to help support youth. You, again, educate and empower is that I shouldn't be the gatekeeper of this information. I make sure my foster kids know about this resource, because if they don't trust me, right, perception's reality. A lot of our kids don't trust us adults. I want them to know there's resources they can access. This is a 24-hour resource that's available for them to access. So I also run through this with all of my kids, drive some of my kids crazy, but I want them to know how to make a report. So I physically show them on their devices. Here, let's do this together. Walk through these steps. Why? Just like first aid CPR, we want to build muscle memory, right? Before the crisis happens. I want my kids to know how to make these reports. Because what if they're being cyberbullied? What if somebody's made fake pictures of them? What if they're being sextorted? Right? In that crisis, I'm hoping that my kids will have that muscle memory to remember, oh, I click the 3 dots, I click report, I scroll down and hit this, right? Guess what? Facebook has a reporting feature. YouTube has a reporting feature. Instagram, reporting feature, right? I know this gets a little draining going through it, but I make the point is that I want my kids to know how to make these reports. Twitter, X now, has a way of reporting. Snapchat, TikTok, right? All of these platforms have reporting available to them. I build that muscle memory with my kids, right? Have them hit here, scroll down, click here, right? I want that muscle memory to be built. No different than I'm working with a kid that has high SI. We program into their phone the numbers for the crisis lines, and then we actually call them, and I tell the operator, hey, we're just doing a trial test call so my kid can hear what the process would be like if they call you. Again, building that muscle memory for our kids and taking away that fear, because in the midst of a crisis, we want our kids to know they have options, and we want them to know what that looks like and how to access it. So my hope, just like when I come out and teach you first aid CPR, is that your muscle memory will kick in that middle of that crisis and you'll remember what to do. Or at the very least, our kids are going to remember that they have ways of reporting and that they have ways of getting help when something's happening. All right, amazing folks. That's the presentation that I have for you all. So we've got about 10 minutes or so. I wanted to open it up for any questions, comments, concerns you all have. I'm going to jump into chat and just check that right now, but What can I answer for y'all?
Thank you, Mr. Lachine. That was an awesome presentation. We have about 5 minutes left of the session. So if anyone has any questions, you can drop them in the chat or you can unmute yourself.
I worked with a kiddo about a year ago who was approached online by someone asking for sexually explicit information. This is when I was working in mental health, and we directed the family to file a report with the NCMEC. Is that still the correct place to send them to file a report, or is there somewhere else, if that happens in the future, that I should be sending my families?
NCMEC's going to be able to start the process because the challenge that we run into is across jurisdictional lines. That can be a real big challenge. And then also, if it's an international, it could just be that this is unfortunately more of like an FYI for NCMEC and the federal investigators to know that another kid was approached, get the IP addresses. So it's a wonderful start. You can also report to the end harm number as well to engage with local services here and local jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you.
There's another question in the chat of how do you bring this up with your grown children to talk to them about this with your grandchildren?
Oh yeah. You want to, it's just education and empowerment, right? It's the new frontier. Our kids' internet is becoming more and more prevalent. Connectivity rates are as high as 95% for American teens. So we need to have these discussions. So totally use me as a guinea pig of, hey, I took this training today and I'm telling my kids because you're going to tell my grandkids because we don't want to have this happen to them.
Thank you. Another question in the slides is, can we get a copy of these slides?
I will get a PDF going for it and get it over to you all this afternoon.
Thank you. You can send it to Cassie or I, and we can send it out to everyone. Another question is, what are your thoughts on AI and how that may play a role with this in the future?
AI can be used for so many different things. They can use it to fake who they are, fake conversations, reach out to kids more often. It'll be just, unfortunately, it's a great tool, but it can also be used for negative things. And I think we're going to see more prevalence of AI being utilized in large scale child pornography rings.
Thank you. Peggy Carlson, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Nathan, I'm wondering on the Take It Down site that you shared, is that something young people can access without their parents or guardians knowing about? They can go on there and do that?
Yeah, so they can access it. It's available 24/7. But as far as once the report's made, they're going to partner then with local jurisdictions. So eventually a caregiver is more than likely going to know about it. But it's a great first step. And I love my kids to know that this is available 24/7 because if it's 2 a.m, something happens, I don't want somebody pressuring this kid till I wake up at 5:45.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Betsy Miller had made a comment that you made a profound statement that started with "you can never." Can you recall that and share that?
It had to do with talking to your kids or spending time with your kids. You can never get in trouble.
It might have been kind of around playing the video games with the kids. Is that, that can be really important with our kids because you're spending time with them. You're getting to see how they interact with other people, how other people interact with them. Those are just some of the best times with our kids, even though I'm terrible at video games and die all the time. It was still really powerful for the kids to play with me. And then I also got to hear, how are they engaging with other people? So I don't know if that was a comment.
Well, this is all wonderful. Thank you.
Gosh, yeah.
Tracy Taylor said you can never spend enough time with your kids. You can never spend too much time with your kids.
Yeah, you can't. There's even playing video games and dying like 50 times and everybody on the server was laughing at me and I swear I was getting laughed at by like 10-year-olds. My kids still talk about it years later And it's just been a great way for us to bond, build that relationship, do what our kids like, hear how they're engaging with people, and also ask those questions of, why do you have this many friends? Who is, Susie Q Sexy Kiss? Oh, that's just a kid. Why does a kid have a name like that? Why are they saying these things to you, right? So it's just a great way of engaging with our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Lachine. This has been an awesome presentation. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming here to present to us. We had, looks like more than 145 participants, so that's quite a bit. I will get the information out to everyone once we receive it. Just to let you know, we have a couple of sessions coming up at 2:00. Breakout session 3. Session A is a treehouse education programs and tribal engagement. And session B is the Native American inquiry. So you can use the Zoom link. Also, please don't forget to complete the survey. The link is in the chat.